It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hey, ladies. Welcome back to the Hint Hive, Amplifying Women's Voices, where we don't just talk empowerment, we live it, we breathe it, and sometimes we have to fight like hell for it. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, your queen bee, your resident psychotherapist, and feminist life coach. And today we are stepping into territory that has historically tried to keep women out. We're talking about women in male-dominated hobbies and what it really looks like to claim space in arenas that were never designed with us in mind. And honestly, sometimes we still aren't. We're talking about gaming, weightlifting, martial arts, woodworking, car culture, investing, coding, fantasy football leagues, sports analysis, cycling, climbing, all spaces where women are often treated like visitors instead of rightful participants. Spaces where women are questioned, doubted, tested, and sometimes outright pushed out. And this episode does not just apply to male-dominated hobbies. You can use what you learned today in any male-dominated space that you happen to occupy. And here's the truth that we are anchoring into today. We are not visitors. We are not guests. We belong here. And today, we're not asking for space. We're taking it. Let's start with the foundation, the invisible rulebook. Because whether we realize it or not, most of us were handed a script about what we are supposed to like long before we had the language to question it. And spoiler alert, it was never neutral. From a young age, girls are often steered towards hobbies that are aesthetic, like art, fashion, crafting, or relational, such as social activities, caregiving types of play, or passive or consumption-based, or socially acceptable and non-threatening. Meanwhile, boys are encouraged toward mechanical and technical skills, competition and strategy, risk-taking and experimentation, and mastery-based skill-building activities. This is not random. This is gender conditioning. And research in developmental psychology shows that by adolescence, many girls begin opting out of activities labeled as masculine, even when they show equal interest and ability. Let that sink in. This is not about lack of capability. It's about learned limitation. And here's why this matters so much. Hobbies are not just hobbies. They are confidence laboratories, identity-building environments, places where we learn resilience, gateways into industries and leadership spaces. So, when women are excluded or self-select out due to conditioning, we're not just losing leisure activities. We're losing access to skill, power, and possibility. Now let's get real about what happens when women step into these environments. Because it's not just about picking up a new hobby, it's about navigating a culture. Women in male-dominated hobbies often experience being underestimated or assumed to be beginners regardless of skill level. They often experience having their knowledge constantly tested or challenged. Gatekeeping, prove you're a real fan, or you probably don't know this. Name the third album that this band had, right? They also experience being ignored or talked over or even dismissed. And there's a lot of harassment, exclusion, or subtle hostility. Sometimes they feel pressure to overperform just to be taken seriously. And this creates something we talk a lot about in psychology: stereotype threat. That internal pressure that says, if I mess up, I'm confirming what they already believe about women. And that pressure, it impacts confidence, performance, and even whether someone stays in the space at all. So if you've ever walked into a gym, a gaming space, a workshop, or a conversation, and you felt like you didn't belong, that was not your intuition failing you. That was your nervous system responding to a very real social dynamic. And I want you to hear this clearly. Your discomfort is not evidence that you don't belong. It is evidence that the space hasn't caught up to you yet. And this is not just about hobbies. This is about autonomy, identity, and power. When women enter and persist in male-dominated spaces, we are expanding the definition of what women are allowed to do. We are disrupting outdated gender norms. We are creating visibility for other women. We're building competence and self-trust in high-growth environments, no longer limiting ourselves to female-designated activities. And there's real psychological benefit here. Research shows that engaging in skill-based, mastery-oriented hobbies increases self-efficacy, which is your belief in your ability to succeed. It increases resilience, which is your ability to handle challenges. It increases emotional regulation and overall life satisfaction. So this isn't just fun, it is actually transformational. And let's be honest, the more women who show up in these spaces, the less power gatekeeping has. Representation doesn't just matter in media. It matters in every gym, every garage, every Discord server, every workshop, and every field. All right, queens, this is where we move from insight to action. If there's something you've been wanting to try, but haven't because it feels intimidating or male-dominated, this is your roadmap. Step 1. Start before you're ready. Yup, I said it. Confidence is built through action, not before it. Start messy. Start unsure. Start anyway. And let's go deeper here because this is where so many women get stuck. We have been conditioned to believe that we need to feel confident first, before we take action. But psychologically, it actually works in reverse. Confidence is not the cause of action. It is the result of repeated exposure, repeated effort, and small wins. So when you wait until you feel ready, what you're often really doing is waiting for fear to disappear. And fear does not disappear through thinking. It softens through doing. Try this instead. Take the smallest possible first step. Watch a beginner video, walk into the space, try something for 10 minutes, whatever, just some small, teeny tiny first step. Let it be imperfect on purpose. Focus on completion, not performance. Because every time you act before you feel ready, you send your brain a new message. I can do hard things, even when I'm uncomfortable. And that is how real confidence is built. Step number 2, normalize the learning curve. You are not behind. You are beginning. Every expert that you admire once looked exactly like you do right now. New. Let's expand this because this is where comparison can quietly sabotage your confidence. And it's kind of normal for us to compare, even though it's not fabulous for us to do. So when you walk into a new space, your brain is automatically scanning for where you rank. And if everyone else looks more experienced, more confident, or more skilled, it's very easy to internalize that as, I'm behind. But that's not the truth. That is perspective. You are comparing your day 1 to someone else's year 5. Of course there's a gap. That's what learning looks like. The problem is not the gap. It's the meaning that we assign to it. Instead of interpreting the gap as inadequacy, try reframing it as evidence of growth potential. Try this. Track your own progress instead of comparing it to others. Create small wins, showing up, trying something new, asking a question. Remind yourself that discomfort is part of skill acquisition, not a sign to quit. And here's a powerful truth from a psychological lens. The people who become highly skilled are not the ones who avoid feeling like beginners. They are the ones who tolerate it long enough to move through it. So instead of asking, am I good at this? Ask, am I willing to stay in the learning phase long enough to get good? Because that willingness, that's what separates curiosity from mastery. Okay, step number 3, curate your environment when possible. Seek out women-led spaces, beginner-friendly communities, and inclusive instructors. These environments can act as stepping stones while you build confidence. And let's go a little bit deeper, because environment is not just about comfort, it's about nervous system safety and sustainability. When you're entering a space that already feels intimidating, the people around you can either amplify that fear or help regulate it. The right environment doesn't eliminate challenge, but it does reduce unnecessary barriers like judgment, exclusion, or hostility. Think of it this way. You're not taking the easy route by choosing supportive spaces. You are creating conditions that allow you to actually learn, grow, and stay. Because here's what often happens. Women enter a hostile or unwelcoming space, feel overwhelmed, and then internalize that discomfort as, maybe this just isn't for me. When in reality, it was never about your ability. It was about the environment. So be intentional. Try this. Start in spaces where questions are welcomed, not judged. Observe how people respond to beginners. Are they supportive or are they dismissive? Pay attention to how you feel in the space. Tense, guarded, or open and engaged. Your body will give you the data that you need. And here's the key. As your confidence grows, you can choose to expand into less curated spaces if you want to. But you don't have to start there. You are allowed to build your foundation in environments that support your growth. You can go to an all-female gym if that's where you want to start. And if you're feeling like you want to move into a co-ed gym, do it. That is not weakness. That is strategy. All right, step number 4, develop internal validation. Because not everyone is going to affirm you, and that cannot be the requirement. Practice validating your own growth, your own effort, and your own progress. This is one of the most powerful mindset shifts that you can make. When you rely on external validation, your confidence becomes fragile. It becomes dependent on others. It rises when people praise you and collapses when they don't. And in male-dominated spaces, affirmation is often inconsistent, withheld, or tied to unrealistic standards. So, if your confidence depends on being recognized, approved of, or included, you will constantly feel like you're chasing belonging instead of owning it. Internal validation changes that. It sounds like, I showed up today, and that matters. I'm improving, even if no one else notices. My effort counts, even if it's not perfect. This, ladies, is how you start becoming your own source of reinforcement and validation. And from a psychological perspective, this builds something called self-trust. Self-trust is what allows you to keep going, even when the environment is not immediately rewarding. Try this in real time. After you engage in your hobby or activity, reflect on, what did I do well? What did I try that was new? Acknowledge effort, not just outcome. And speak to yourself the way you would encourage a friend who is learning. Because here's the truth. If you only celebrate yourself when you're exceptional, you will abandon yourself in the process of becoming. And we are not doing that anymore, ladies. You do not have to earn your own approval. You practice giving it consistently, intentionally, and without conditions. Step number 5, respond to gatekeeping strategically. Because you have options. And let's really, really unpack this, because gatekeeping can be one of the most discouraging parts of entering male-dominated spaces. Gatekeeping is not actually about protecting the integrity of a hobby or activity. It is about protecting identity, power, and exclusivity. When someone challenges your knowledge, or dismisses your presence, or makes you feel like you have to earn your place, what they're often doing is reacting to a perceived disruption of the status quo. And here's the key. Their behavior is not a reflection of your legitimacy. It's a reflection of their discomfort. So let's talk strategy, because you don't need just confidence. You need options. When you encounter this gatekeeping BS, ignore it when it's not worth your energy. Not every comment deserves your response. Protect your peace and stay focused on your experience. But challenge it when you feel safe and resourced. Sometimes a simple, calm response can shift the dynamic. Something like, I'm here to learn and enjoy this just like anyone else. Simple. And of course, set boundaries when needed. You are allowed to disengage, walk away, or call out behavior that crosses a line, because respect is not optional. And use strategic confidence, even if it feels borrowed at first. You know, the old fake it till you make it concept. You don't have to feel 100% confident to act confident. Sometimes confidence is a behavior before it becomes a feeling. I live this often. There are people who tell me I look very confident in a situation, and on the inside, I'm dying. I am freaking out. Like, even just doing a video podcast when I feel like crap. I don't feel the confidence, but I do it anyway. And finally, find allies in the space. Even in male-dominated environments, there are often people who are supportive. Identify them. Stay near them. Let community with decent people buffer the impact of gatekeeping. And here's the deeper truth. You are not responsible for making other people comfortable with your presence. You are responsible for protecting your energy, your growth, and your right to be there. Because the goal is not to win approval. The goal is to stay in the space long enough to make it yours. So when you run into gatekeeping nonsense, ignore it, challenge it, and set boundaries. But remember, you do not owe anyone proof of your belonging. Step number 6, build competence at your own pace. Skill building is empowering. Take courses, watch tutorials, practice consistently. Competence silences self-doubt more effectively than perfection ever will. Let's go even further. This is where confidence becomes grounded, not just motivational. A lot of women are taught to chase perfection instead of progress. But perfection keeps you stuck in hesitation, overthinking, and self-criticism. Competence, on the other hand, is built through repetition, exposure, and skill stacking over time. It's not flashy, it's not instant, but it is powerful. Because every time you practice, you are giving your brain evidence. I know what I'm doing more than I did yesterday. And that evidence, that is what quiets the self-doubt. Not affirmations alone, not external praise, actual lived experience. So let's make this practical. Break the skill down into smaller parts instead of trying to master everything at once. Focus on consistency over intensity. 10 to 20 minutes regularly beats occasional burnout sessions. I know this from my exercise journey that I have struggled with. Consistency, not intensity. That's how you master the skill. And of course, track your improvement so you can see your growth over time. And let yourself be bad at it without making it mean something about your worth. Guess what? I am never going to be an Olympic quality runner, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that I'm less than in any way, shape, or form. And here's a mindset shift that will change everything. You do not need to prove that you are naturally good at something. You get to become good at it through practice. That is actually where the real power lives. Because when your confidence is built on competence, not perfection, you become unshakable. You're no longer asking, do I belong here? You know that you do, because you've put in the time, the effort, and the work. And no one can take that from you. And finally, step number 7, protect your joy like it's sacred, because it is. If someone tries to make you feel small, remember, their insecurity is loud, but it's not truth. Joy is often the first thing that gets attacked in spaces that weren't built with you in mind. What starts as curiosity and excitement can slowly turn into self-consciousness, overthinking, and pressure to prove yourself. And if you're not careful, you can lose the very thing that drew you to that hobby or space in the first place, your joy. And here's the truth. Joy is not frivolous. It's fuel. Joy is what keeps you showing up. Joy is what makes learning sustainable. Joy is what turns effort into something meaningful instead of exhausting. So protecting your joy is not optional. It's essential. So try this. Notice when the energy shifts from fun to pressure. Take breaks from environments or people that drain your enthusiasm about the space, the hobby, the interest. Reconnect with why you started. What excited you? What felt fun? And give yourself permission to engage in the hobby or activity your way, not how others expect you to. And here's a powerful reframe. You are not here to perform your worthiness. You are here to experience your life. So if someone rolls their eyes, questions you, or tries to make you feel small, do not absorb it. Let it bounce. Because their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to stay connected to what lights you up. Because when you protect your joy, you don't just stay in the space, you actually thrive in it. And that is the ultimate power move. Now, let's go over to the therapy corner and dig a little deeper. Because sometimes the biggest barrier isn't the space, it's the internalized voice that we carry into it. Ask yourself, what messages did I receive about what women should or shouldn't do? Where did I learn to shrink? When have I abandoned my curiosity to feel accepted? What would change if I stopped asking for permission? This is identity level work. When you step into a space that once felt off limits, you are not just learning a hobby. You are rewriting your self-concept. You are expanding your identity. You are becoming someone who chooses herself. In that ripple effect, it touches everything. Let's make this even more tangible. Here are some mindset shifts to carry with you in your journey. I don't know enough becomes I'm learning something new. They're judging me becomes they are uncomfortable with change. I don't belong here becomes I am expanding into new territory. And here's a big one. You are allowed to be average at something new. You do not have to be exceptional to deserve space. Existing is enough. All right, ladies, here we go. Our affirmation of the week is this: I belong in any space that I choose to enter. My curiosity is valid, my presence is powerful, and I take up space unapologetically. Take a breath with that. Let it settle into your body, not just your mind. Because this affirmation is not about ego, it's about reclamation. For generations, women have been taught to shrink, to defer, to observe instead of participate. In this affirmation is you interrupting that pattern. It's you saying, I don't need to be invited. I'm already worthy of being here. Every time you show up in a space where women have been underrepresented, you are doing far more than participating. You are expanding visibility, you're challenging norms, and creating pathways for other women. That is not small. That is legacy work. That is power in motion. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. You do not need permission to explore your interests. You do not need to be the best, the fastest, the strongest, or the most knowledgeable. You do not need to justify your presence. Your curiosity is enough. Your voice is enough. Your presence is enough. And every time you choose to show up anyway, despite discomfort, despite fear, despite doubt, you are reshaping what is possible. And not just for you, but for every woman who comes after you. This is how change happens. not through perfection, but through participation. Ladies, if this episode lit something in you, I want you to act on it. Not someday, this week. Pick one thing. Sign up for the class. Join the group. Buy the beginner tool. Watch the tutorial. Walk into the space. And then I want you to share it. Come into our Hive community on Facebook. Tell us what you tried, what felt hard, what felt empowering. We are building a space there where women support women in becoming more fully themselves. You could be helping someone else to shed some of their fear through your participation and disclosure of your experience. And if you're having a hard time taking those first steps to becoming the badass that I know exists inside of you, then reach out to me and let's do some work together. I want you to see you the way I see you. I want you to experience the same level of empowerment that I feel. Because, ladies, it's amazing to get to this point in your life, this place of empowerment, where you shed the approval of others and embrace the amazing woman that you are. And of course, if this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend. Post it. Start the conversation. Because we are not shrinking anymore. We are expanding. We are evolving. And we are taking up space, unapologetically, everywhere we choose to be. All right, Hive. Until next time, stay bold, stay loud, and stay unapologetically you. See you next week.